Yeah, figure we do a podcast tonight. It's been a couple of weeks, so,
It's about fucking time.
The 5s or 10s of listeners, they're like, dude, we could do podcasts.
Let's go. It's time. Put on play pants.
And away we go. Episode 51. Finally back in the saddle after a couple of weeks of just dicking off, apparently.
You're alive. You're alive, bro. You called. I'm like, Jason calls me up. He's like, we're doing a podcast. I'm like, I'm in, bro. Let's do it.
I had to go dig up all my gear. I didn't know what happened to half my shit to pull this thing off. Episode 51 brought to you by Pirates of the Quarter Tours in New Orleans. You go to New Orleans, check out piratesofthequarter.com. Follow the Playpants podcast on your social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. There is a video portion of this crazy ass podcast. Like, smash the subscribe button. I'm Jason Ginty. That is Rod Ryan. And I just learned moments ago that Rod is short for Rodingo. I just found it's not.
No, you've been fed some false information. Where did that come from? We've known each other a long time. Did you think you just uncovered some new name of mine?
I thought I did. Rodingo. I thought it was nice. I'm like, oh, that's because usually there's a lot of times Rodney, Rod
Stewart's name is Roderick.
Gotcha. Okay. But there's I can't think of any examples right now, but it's like who's the one? Oh, I just read it. It was Stevie Wonder. It's not Steven. It's like Stefan or something different. It's not exact.
It's super different. Yeah, we did that. We were talking about that today as well. Yeah, but no. I mean, maybe my porn name, like a tag team with Mandingo and Rod Dingo.
The big Wang and little Wang.
In another life. Yeah. Before and after for sure. Bro, Ben, what's going on? I haven't seen you. I haven't talked to you since Jazz Fest. You got a new job. You told me that you were hacking up all kinds of lung butter. And then we didn't do a podcast because we were on vacation. I was on vacation. So we took that week up. And then after Jazz Fest, some people just can't handle Jazz Fest. Jason's like, no, I can't do the podcast. I'm not feeling well.
Dude, there's a lot of people in New Orleans that got this weird cough and
there is,
and it's not COVID. I've tested. We're cool here. We're all good. It's just, you know what? And I was talking to some people. It's like, a lot of the urgent cares now are getting filled with people or having visits by people because they're just getting regular colds. And if everyone's been locked in for the last couple of years, nobody's gotten any regular colds. So now we're all out going, hey, and hugs and kisses. Well, we're getting regular colds now. And we're like, oh no. So if you do start feeling sick, though, definitely get your test so you don't infect half the world. But feeling decent now, and we got a lot to talk about, man. Jazz Fest was great. It was good to have that back after like almost 3 years. You came in, we had a blast. And then we're going to talk. You saw Coldplay and you interviewed Chris Martin from Coldplay.
Yeah,
I want to talk about that because that sounds actually pretty cool. And I did finally start my new job. Been doing it about 3 weeks now, and it's wild. We'll talk about that. And Ian Astbury just turned 60 years old. Dude, that just sounded old when I said 60.
60's up there. 60's up there. I mean, you're just 10 short years away.
Yeah, 10 is the key word, dropping them every day. So we're going to talk about our top 5 favorite cult songs, which I thought this was great, man. You're like, top 5 cult songs. I'm like, ooh. So I had to go do some digging around today. And I forgot how good this band was, man.
I enjoyed the list. I enjoyed going down a cult rabbit hole. And I mean, with the cult, there's 3 albums. There's 3 really, really great albums. And then there's some other stuff that's okay. Right. And then there's some stuff that I really haven't listened all that much to. It's bad that for me, it's going to come down to 3 albums of their catalog. They probably have 10. It's 3 for me. Everything's coming from 3 albums. I'm sorry. I'll mention some other songs on some other albums, but they're not top 5 worthy. So I'm just giving you a heads up on what direction I'm headed in with my list.
And I'm looking forward to talking about the cult because where do they fit into we always talk about Nirvana, 1991 and the whole grunge and everything. Where do the cult, and this is what I want to get into with this, besides the top 5, is where do they fit into all this whole musical mess? Because they come out at a weird time. Their popularity was at a very odd time when a lot of different music was out. In 86, 87, 88, 89. And they just fit in this weird place, at least to me, from a sound standpoint. Anyway, dude, Jazz Fest was awesome. Got to hang out with you in London. I was blown away how great she was out there, man. She's just like, "Hey guys, what's up? Let's party." And I'm like, "Wow, right off the old block there, man. That's definitely Rod's kid."
It was a different experience. I mean, I've been out there. I've been out there with your kids over the years, over a long span of time, and I don't think Henry's ever missed the Jazz Fest, and he's now 11,
13,
and I think he's been every year. So, my kid went. The last time there was a Jazz Fest and she was alive, she went. So she's been to every available Jazz Fest in her life. And we went, she had no choice. We were going to go see The Who. And it was just London and I in New Orleans. She had no choice. We're going to Jazz Fest. Daddy needs to see The Who. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's why we did the last time we did a podcast, I believe we did a Who Top 5.
Correct.
Which was great. And then, we got to talk about The Who and it got me excited all about them all over again. And then, it's a 4-year-old. I said, if you want to come back tomorrow, we can come back. No, thank you. You gave me tickets, which saved me a lot of money.
Sure.
And then I just got to buy London a ticket. I think it's $10 for little kids. So I leave it on her. She's like, no, I want to come back. And I said, listen,
wow,
let's go home, sleep, chill out, wake up in the morning. It was raining on that Sunday. And I said, if you want to go, and she doesn't know, I'm like, the Chili Peppers are playing. It's going to be fun. We'll get some food. It'll be great. Mr. Jason will be out there and Miss Claudia, and you can and I think what got her is you can put glitter on everyone. My kid's all about putting glitter on faces right now. And next year we're charging for that, by the way. It was 100% her decision to go back on Saturday. She said she wanted to go. I promise you, I was not going to force my kid to go out there again. And she wanted to go and had a great time. And, it's awesome. It's different, taking a kid. There's just that level of it's not that I don't want to make it sound like it's bad because it's amazing. You're sharing this experience with your kid. And it's just amazing. Like, wow, your kid is seeing this stuff. I don't know what she's going to remember, but pictures and all of that. It was an amazing experience. And much like we talked about with Mardi Gras, and spending time with you and the family and stuff and being uptown, it's a different way of doing it, but it's a great way of doing it. And it's a new chapter, and it was so much fun.
I think my favorite part both days was hanging out with her, playing games, running around, doing dumb shit because it was just fun. And she brought a whole nother element to it, because now Henry's older. So he's kind of like, well, okay, I'll sit here and watch, whatever. But when you have that youthful exuberance like that, it's awesome. And then when she busted out, she she brings this glitter and it's like face paint and it's gold sparkles. And, she's got the girl. There's a lot of girls hanging out in that circle.
But back up, okay? Miss Claudia is the reason that she has this glitter, and that's your wife. So gold was the theme for Mardi Gras, and your wife brought glitter, and everybody was wearing it. And you put it on your face, and it's just you got glitter on your face. So she gave your wife gave that to London, so she's got the glitter now, and we busted out for special occasions. But on Saturday, when she busted out the glitter and we're getting ready for The Who, everybody it kicked the party up a notch.
Yeah.
When everybody had glitter on, it was weird. It put everybody in a good mood. I got a quick story. When our friend Briggs was staying at my condo in New Orleans, he took some friends down there and he sent me a text and he said, man, 2 days of partying, everybody's moving slow. He said, and everybody was, we're old, man. You go back to back in New Orleans and then, you do Thursday night, Friday night, you wake up on Saturday, you got one more full day of partying. And he said, everybody's mellow, dude. He said, I'm about to bust out your bubble machine. So I have a bubble machine that it's a pro one and it goes on the balcony and it just shoots bubbles into the street. He said, dude, it snapped everybody out of their funk. There were bubbles. And he said that was the turning point and everybody started partying. When my kid sees bubbles, she loses her shit. Okay. And bubbles just it's just, who doesn't like to have bubbles around? It's cool. The same thing with this glitter, because she brought it back on Sunday and everybody said, well, let's wait. Cause she wanted to glitter everybody's faces. We're like, let's wait till the intermission before the Chili Peppers. And the same thing happened again. She glittered everybody's faces and it was like war paint and you were just ready to go. I was already in a good mood, but bam, I was ready to party.
It was great because like even the dudes and you know, all the chicks are like, yes, a little girl putting glitter on me. This is my greatest day too, because those girls, they immediately revert back to being a little girl putting the glitter on their faces. So that's great for everybody. But then like, when it comes to me, she's like, Mr. Jace, you want some glitter? I'm like, you bet your ass. If a 4-year-old asks if you want glitter, you know what you do? You get the glitter.
Say, yep.
Every time. So what's great about that is, you know, after a while, you forget you got it on. So I go to buy some beers, right? You got to go over to they got the beer tents. So there's a guy there and he's giving me shit as I'm buying the beer. He's like, oh, nice glitter, dude. Whoa, you're real cool. You know?
Yeah, you forget you're wearing it.
Oh, and I wasn't going to say anything. I was like, yeah, I know, the glitter is party, man. I'm a jazz fan. It's all good. And then there's some chick in the back who's like digging the beers out of the ice tubs. And she's got gold glitter all over her face. She goes, no way, dude. We're glitter buddies, man. So like the glitter thing is huge. It was so cool. Like she made that guy that was giving me shit look like an asshole. I'm like, yeah. All right. I'm like, oh, the glitter is awesome. So yeah, bring that glitter to the party. If we could find a way to sneak in some bubbles next time.
Yeah. Bubbles.
Let's double down.
Yeah, we could probably sneak in. I could probably sneak some bubbles in. I could probably do that. So about Jazz Fest, I wanted to mention this to you because we had talked about it a little bit, but we didn't get into it that much. I stayed for every note of the Chili Peppers, and there really was no tribute to the Foo Fighters. And except for Chad coming out, and I know we're talking about something that happened 2 weeks ago, but except for Chad coming out afterwards, and I'm pretty sure Chad doesn't close the shows normally, but because he was so close to Taylor, he came out and said, man, it was just a couple of weeks that we found out about this gig. Of course, we're here, you know, in place of our brothers, the Foo Fighters, and we're all still hurting. And I love Taylor. And he's got Taylor on his bass drum. And he said, the guys are here. And we all looked at each other. The fucking Foo Fighters are here? What do you mean they're here? He said, the guys are here. And then he mentioned that Taylor's family was here. And I think they brought her in for the show. But that was it. It kind of took us all back for a second. What do you mean the guys are here? Why didn't they come out, man? You know? And then we got confirmation that Dave Grohl was on campus because a picture came out the next day of him and one of the Nevilles from Dumpster Funk.
Yeah.
And he was definitely on campus, meaning he was on the fairgrounds. Your thoughts on the Foo Fighters not doing something, Dave Grohl not coming out? There wasn't even a video montage tribute. I get it. It was tough probably to put that together in 2 weeks. They didn't attempt to do a cover song. They didn't do anything. And I kind of was expecting something. I don't think I was wrong in expecting something.
You know, I was expecting something from them, but I didn't know what. Because the Chili Peppers do their own thing. They always have done their own thing. They're never going to stop doing their own thing. When they did do anything, I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. And then when Chad came on, I was like, oh, okay, that made me feel better about it. Because if they had just walked off and didn't even mention it, that would have been weird. With Dave Grohl, that picture was taken backstage. So those guys got whisked in there. Nobody knew they were there. And they probably got the hell out of there pretty quick. I think it's still too soon, too raw. Could they have come out on stage and waved everybody? They could have, but that just walking on a stage would probably be very, very weird, you know, without Taylor being there with you. So maybe it's a little too raw and they have a plan, I'm sure, of some sort. And then a couple of days later, another picture came out with Flea backstage after the gig with Pat Smear, a guitar player from Foo
I didn't see this picture. Tell me about it.
Yeah. It's just them, same backstage thing. So they were all back there hanging out. So Flea posted a picture with him and Pat. And then, you know, big smile on his face, you know, and
so they were all there.
They were all there. I will say this about Dave Grohl and that picture with the dude from one of the Nevilles from Dumpster Funk is that, look, he's into barbecue and Dave's been putting on the LBs the last 10 years. You know, he's not skinny guy anymore. And then I saw the picture of him and it's just him chilling. He's got a baseball hat on backwards and a t-shirt on and some jeans on. He looks like he's lost a hell of a lot of weight. So you lose a lot of weight in a month, you know you're hurting. And maybe it's just the angle of the picture, and I'm not saying he is, but it just like I looked at him and went, whoa, Dave looks pretty damn skinny right there. So it's obviously hitting him hard. There were other tributes throughout the weekend. The following weekend, Stevie Nicks performed. I got to see her play. And she came out because her and Taylor were working on some things, I guess, over the years. And she said on stage when she was performing, she said, hey, this next song is for Taylor Hawkins. He would always come to my shows. He would always come over and hang out. So then she did Landslide for Taylor Hawkins. Dude.
Was it great?
Everyone's balling. Dude, they kept putting people up on the camera, and you just saw people, dudes, tears in their eyes. My wife's bawling. Everyone around me is bawling. I'm like, oh my God, this is heavy.
And this is the week after the Foos were going to play. It's just that connective tissue. It's like everybody knows what's going on, you know?
Yeah. And Taylor, apparently, the more, the time goes by, he knew everybody, and he was literally loved by everyone in the music world. So, I wish there was a tribute, but then I kind of was okay with nothing happening too.
So I want to share you know David Foster, who works for Jazz Fest?
I probably met him.
You probably know him. He said he works for Jazz Fest. He's the only guy that I kind of know that, he's like an insider guy that I've known all these years. He sends me something on maybe a Facebook message. I pulled it up. Sorry, I missed you at Jazz Fest. Looks like you had a good time. And I said, man, it was the best. It was a different with a 4-year-old, blah, blah, blah. He said, yeah, kids with the portalettes, man, you got to hand them off to mom. I said, hey, can you give me any behind the scenes info on the Foo Fighters? Were they ever thinking of going on stage? Now, David Foster, again, is right underneath the big guys. He's one of the top dogs, okay, right, with the fest. The Red Hot Chili Peppers had invited Taylor's wife, and this is David. The Red Hot Chili Peppers had invited Taylor's wife and kids to come to the fest. Did that mean hop on the plane? Probably. Dave Grohl and Pat, I had no idea. Nobody did, meaning even Quint and the press hall guys. Quint Davis is the guy that puts together Jazz Fest. Right. He's the top guy, and this is who David reports directly to. He said Quint Davis did not know that Dave Grohl was going to be on site. Wow. Nobody did, even Quint. They were guests and really didn't want to step on, confuse people, probably too emotional to think about getting on stage. And I said, damn it would have been nice. It would have been an amazing moment. He said, true. I kind of like that. They basically secretly came to watch their friends at a festival that they know and dig, fill in for them, show support, but not take the moment away from the Chili Peppers. But a simple walkout and a wave would have been a big story. You're right. So his perspective was, yeah, he agreed with me. Dave Grohl walking on that stage, everyone would have lost their shit. Then it wouldn't have been enough because you're there, Dave, hop behind the kit, do something, sing a song, grab an acoustic. Right. It wouldn't have been enough. His point, I took that. It's huge to think that Dave showed up to support the Chili Peppers, to say, thanks for filling in for us. And you guys have this moment.
That's a very good point, though. When you say it that,
I didn't think of it like that, but selfishly, right? And I think you feel the same. You wanted Dave Grohl going up on stage and grabbing the acoustic guitar and just doing times like these, or doing My Hero, something, making his first appearance. Which there's going to be a first appearance. We just don't know when. Will it be a Foo Fighter appearance? Will it be just be Dave somewhere? There's going to be an appearance. We just don't know when that first one is going to be. And Jazz Fest would have been an amazing moment. But I get it. It's a little raw.
It's a little soon. But I like the angle on the, hey, the Chili Peppers, man. They're no slouches. And Jazz Fest is something that everyone wants to play. So it is a big moment. And the Chili Peppers have played before, but the second time, and they got the new album out. This is the first gig they've played live in a long time, because they came in and did this. Their tour isn't supposed to start till June. And they're like, yeah, we'll come in and rock it out. And That's a great point. Like, why would you take that moment away from the Chili Peppers? So, man, I tell you what, there's always another angle. That's pretty great.
And that was an angle. So you brought it up, angles. The last 2 days, we've been talking about the Rolling Stone article about Taylor Hawkins.
Right.
So Rolling Stone puts out a piece. They interview a ton of people about Taylor. And when the piece comes out, shocking that they are saying that it's their understanding, meaning the writers of Rolling Stone, that Taylor Hawkins had approached the band, Dave, saying he was tired. And he was asking if they were going to slow down at all. And he was questioning if he could keep up the pace of what the Foo Fighters, what's expected to be a band member of the Foo Fighters, which is you're being asked to do more than most. I'll say that if you're in the Foo Fighters. Dave Grohl is a workaholic, okay? He runs the show. He's calling the shots. Oh, we're making a movie? Okay, let's go make a movie. Everyone else is just chilling during COVID. Dave Grohl said, let's make a movie. These are band members. They're not actors. Dave Grohl wants to make a movie? Okay, boss said we got to make a movie. So the article is basically talking about Taylor wanting to maybe kick back or maybe even step aside from the Foo Fighters. And it's backed up by a bunch of interviews that they did, Chad Smith being one of the big ones, really close with Taylor, and Matt Cameron, longtime drummer of Soundgarden, who's technically been in Pearl Jam longer than he was in Soundgarden. He's the Pearl Jam drummer. And once the article came out, we had talked about it on the air. Wow. Who would have thought? To be honest with you, if anyone was going to say, hey guys, we need to slow down, I thought it was going to be Pat Smear. He's the oldest guy. He has had trouble with that in the past. Of course, that was a long time ago because he was in the Foo Fighters, if you remember, and then he quit for a while. He's like, this is too much for me, you know?
Right.
A day after the article comes out, which we're all kind of shocked that we're hearing these things. Wow. You know, I mean, Taylor seemed like he had the most energy in the band, you know, and he was in side projects. He was in like 3 other bands. Immediately, Chad Smith and Matt Cameron, the drummer of Pearl Jam, said, this is not the piece that we agreed to do. We were led to believe that this was going to be a tribute to Taylor, our friend who we love dearly. And our comments were taken out of context because they both were quoted in the magazine as saying, yeah, Taylor had approached me about saying, yeah, he was tired. They wanted those comments to be scrubbed. The article, what the toothpaste is out of the tube, the article's out there. 2 of them have come forward saying, our comments were taken out of context. We don't want to be associated with this article. The band themselves have just said, no meeting like that ever happened. And that's kind of where we are sitting today. Where's your head at on all of this?
The one thing that I saw, you know, and I read the article and it's like every time they say something about, well, this guy said this, and then they had another quote, well, the band says that never happened. So it kept this back and forth ping pong. And you're like, well, what am I reading this shit for then? You know, it was weird. But one of the things that I read that made a lot of sense, considering we've talked about this a bunch on this podcast, you know, Taylor just turned 50 years old. And one of the things that I remember reading from the article was like, hey, man, we play an incredibly powerful, almost 3-hour show every time we perform live.
They do.
And I'm the damn drummer. Okay, look, you play the drums. You're going to play the drums for 3 hours with the intensity and the chaotic way he plays. And for 3 hours every time you step on stage at 50, you can't, you know, when you're 25, that's one thing. You know, to do that at 50, and that was one of his concerns. Can I keep this kind of perform? And he's got a level of performance he wants to have every show too. So he's like, can I do this? Can I keep doing this at 50 years of age? Like you get to a certain point where you're like, yeah, that's great. Even, I just want to bring this up too. Something happened the other night with James Hetfield of Metallica. He kind of had a breakdown on stage and he's like, I don't know if I can keep doing this shit because Hetfield's a little bit older than 50. And to play like Metallica does is hard when you're this age compared to when you were 26 years old. So how do these bands move on? It's not like the Who we saw, they're old as dirt. They pulled it off, but there was a lot of help. You know what I mean? A lot of backup singers and shit helping.
There's 2 dudes in the Who. There's 2 old dudes in the Who, and then they've got everyone else. And then I do got to say, man, Ringo Starr's kid was a superstar, man. He was a superstar on those drums.
Smoke show. But getting back to Taylor, like I could see him kind of saying that because like there's shit I can't do now at 50.
But hang on. And I made sure that I mentioned this. He's in like 3 other bands. Okay, you're getting tired. Back off on the side projects and focus on the one that's buttering your bread.
But that being said, how many times can you really get super excited about playing My Hero or Everlong? Like, they've played those thousands and thousands of times.
How many times has Mick Jagger played fucking Jumping Jack Flash?
I'm with you. I'm with you. I get it. But from his standpoint, maybe he's like, I can't continue to deliver this level of performance, which I want to do.
Right.
If I can't do it, I don't want to do it. With our weird ass radio careers, we've been doing it forever at this point, and I have no intentions of ever stopping unless someone stops it for me, but if I get to a point where my vocal cords start shredding or something weird happens, because I don't have to play an instrument, if I can't deliver the energetic show that I want to deliver every day, I mean, how do you got standards, you've got standards, I got standards. If for some reason you couldn't live up to those standards that you still have, wouldn't you have to start thinking that way?
Maybe so. But the fact that these guys pulled out, meaning I don't want to have anything to do with this, out of context. Hang on a second.
Right.
Tessa brought up a really good point because she comes from TV and reporting and doing all of that. She said, it's not that Rolling Stone went out to go get this story. They were probably starting out. She's defending the piece now. And she brought up a really good point, which one that I didn't think of, because I thought it was more of not a hit piece, but
clickbait.
I thought they were going to get something. Let's see if it's been a month and a half. No one's really done anything. Let's go get people talking. Let's get somebody buying, or clicking on our website. And she said, you got to think of as a reporter, they may have just gone out and talked to a bunch of drummers and how you dealing with this. And then they keep hearing this over and over again that people are saying, yeah. And to be honest with you, Taylor, he came to me a couple of times and said, maybe he didn't want to do this anymore. They heard that a couple of times maybe and said, hey guys, there's the story.
Right.
They didn't go out to write this story. The story came to them as they're talking to all of these drummers, where apparently Taylor shared information with them. I just thought it was interesting that the two big drummers, I mean, there's another person that said that they didn't want to be on record that backed this up. And then there's a guy on record that was a drum tech who said, yeah, that's true. So regardless, we're not going to know. And I don't know if Dave Grohl is ever going to address this outside of the official statement that came out. I don't think he owes us anything, but man, do you think Jason Ginty, did Taylor go to Dave and say, bro, I don't think I can keep up this pace anymore? Do you think that conversation happened?
I could imagine where that probably happens near the end of every tour, because Dave has said in the past, man, by the time we get done with our 1.5 year long tour on every album cycle, we don't want to see each other. We're done with each other. We've been beating the shit out of each other for 1.5 years playing.
But they always say they're going to take time off, and then, guess what? We recorded an album. Right. So I looked it up. They play about 60 shows a year. It's not 200 shows a year.
Right.
There's bands out there that are humping. Okay. There are, the Buck Cherries of the world, and some of those bands, they're humping and they're playing more than 200 shows a year. Foo Fighters, but you're right. They play for 3 hours. They're big shows, but again, you're not living on a bus.
No,
you're flying in a personal jet. You're staying at the best hotel in the city.
I know.
I'm not saying that doesn't get tiring, but it's not humping in a tour bus.
Right.
Foo Fighters are not doing that.
But you've also been doing it for, Taylor's Hawkins been doing it since he's probably like 19 years old.
True.
And doing it all this time, I don't give a shit if you are staying at the Four Seasons or wherever. He's got kids now, and the kids are getting older. So like, to break away from the family, especially as you're older, and as a parent at this age, you appreciate all that much more, and the time is super precious. So there's a lot of other factors. And how many times have you sat around when you're mulling over decisions, or maybe like with his side project with Dave Navarro of Jane's Addiction that he'd been working on for a while, which is actually pretty cool. Maybe you get excited about it, and then he's just talking, smoking cigarettes and having a beer with his buddies going, I don't know, man, the Foo Fighters are great, but gosh, I could really take a break. Just as an aside, as you talk, I don't feel like doing that. Do you really mean it? Who knows? I don't know. The whole thing kind of blows because it doesn't matter either way. He's not coming back. So,
right.
At the end of the day, it just fucking sucks. I do wish the Foo Fighters would come out and say, hey, look, here's what he died of. So we can clear up all that one way or the other, whatever the hell it was, give us an official statement. Let's do a tribute sometime in the fall. And then let's start the getting back at whatever the Foo Fighters or Dave Grohl will do,
Right.
I'm sure they have a plan. The Foo Fighters camp is very, very tight, and they're very good at their control of that band. You don't have a lot of leaks coming out of the Foo Fighters camp. You know what I mean? It's always pretty tight. You don't hear a lot of gossip and bullshit,
Chad Smith put out this statement. Taylor was one of my best friends. I would do anything for his family. I was asked by Rolling Stone to share some memories of our time together, which I thought was going to be a loving tribute he deserved. Instead, the story they wrote was sensationalized, misleading, and had I known, I never would have agreed to participate. I apologize to his family and musical friends for any pain this may have caused. I miss Taylor every day. Basically, the statement from the drummer of Pearl Jam is the same, that It's like, this is not what I signed up for, and
so it feels like a hit piece in a way,
But this is why guys don't want to do interviews. This is why guys don't want to talk, because they don't want to get caught in a gotcha moment. It's like, shit, I said something. I shouldn't have said that. Hey man, can you not print that, please? Or especially if they're on with the radio and it's like, damn, So
think about how
it's bad for us though. It's bad for us because and it's Rolling Stone magazine for crying out loud, I mean, it's still a big deal. It's still a big deal. It still carries a lot of weight, and they duped him, and this is just like somebody that's listening right now. Well, the fucking media, that's what they do. Mm-hmm. Well, I am the media. It's not what we do, but it's what they did. It is what they did though.
No, and that whole, the media, it's all the media. No, it's not all the media. There's a lot of people who work really hard to try to do the right thing. It's the dipshits that screwed up for everybody else. Like anything else, you can be a plumber and what? One guy fucks up. Well, then guess what? You're all assholes. That's how it works with media, Shit, I was going to bring something up. This is it. Not to shift gears, but I'm going to think about this. When you interviewed Chris Martin, okay? So think about it. If he said something in one little 10-word sentence that was really fucked up, right? You could cut that, isolate it, and play the shit out of it all over your radio show the next morning.
And get credit for breaking some sort of huge thing that he said. Maybe he misspoke on something or whatever.
Get the TMZ following you around. Then you get a trending thing on BuzzFeed or whatever else. And you could do that in a minute, but that's why these guys don't like to do interviews, because they know that you can manipulate the shit out of it. And there's really no repercussions or recourse for anybody.
Same thing. So as I'm speaking to Liam Gallagher, I'm talking to him about his.
We're just name dropping now. That's nice.
But I'm saying,
I'm talking to Chris Martin.
I'm talking to him because he's got a new album out and he did the track with the Foo Fighters. And he did make some comments about Taylor, which we shared on this podcast. He knows that me, the dumb radio guy that he's talking to, he knows that this dipshit that he's talking to is going to inevitably, and he's probably just working up the courage, speaking of me, to ask me when Oasis is getting back together. And of course I did. I just said, dude, there's no easy way to get in this. Bro, what's going on, man? Are you and your bro, are you going to get back together? He's not going to give me that nugget. Okay. When that information comes out, they will be in control of it. I knew he was not going to give me the answer that I wanted.
Right.
I knew he was going to have some sort of a canned answer. He wasn't going to give that to me. It's like, oh yeah, I don't know this a-hole from Houston. Why don't I just tell the world through Rod Ryan what the future of Oasis is? I knew it wasn't going to happen, but yeah, you do kind of hope that somebody says something during an interview and, you can kind of run with it. So with Chris, I couldn't believe how great he was. There were no ground rules. You would think that maybe they would say, hey, don't bring up the kids or Gwyneth Paltrow, there was nothing.
Right.
And I don't choose to go there during my interviews anyway. It goes back to when we had Tommy Lee on, and there were some rules back in the day. The big gorilla comes in the room, and Tommy Lee was going to be in studio with us. And this big gorilla comes in and says, okay, no Pam, no kids, and no hepatitis C, which was like a big story at that time of like who gave who hep C. And he said, don't bring those things up. And I'm like, there's enough shit to talk about with Tommy Lee that you don't have to bring up those three things. I get it. The Pam, it kind of chops off one of your legs, but still, it's Tommy Lee. You play by the rules. Tommy hung out with us for an hour.
Yep.
An hour in studio. You go against the rules. Okay, man, I got to go. So kind of the same thing, but there were no rules. I was surprised. I mean, Coldplay is one of the biggest bands in the world, whether you like them or not. Okay. Tell me who's playing stadiums. There's about 5 bands and Coldplay is one of them. Okay. So there's no rules with Chris Martin, and I'm talking to him, and I cannot believe how engaging he is and how absolutely cool he is. I was late for the fucking interview.
What?
I'm going to throw Radio Wizard under the bus. Wizard told me noon. Guess what? It was 11 o'clock. Now, thank God I'm prepped and ready to go, because I prep early. I freak out about doing interviews because I don't want to get in the middle and get stuck and not know what to say.
Right.
It's embarrassing for me. So I over prep. So I'm ready to go. I'm talking to the Wizard on the phone about something else. My phone's going off. It's like, hey, Chris is waiting for you. Fucking Chris Martin is waiting for me. I don't hook up with Chris Martin until 11:20. Now, 20 minutes to you and me. If you're 20 minutes late for this podcast, okay, you're a dick. No big deal. We'll get around it. Chris Martin, I'm 20 minutes late for the interview. So you know how that is. You got to you're frazzled going into it. So you got a wobbly wheel on your cart. And you don't want another one to wobble. So you're going in a little bit, and then you just want to make sure that one of the wheels doesn't come off. I said, Chris, they said he's waiting for you. He stuck around, dude. He waited. So they hooked me up with Chris. I go, dude, I apologize. I cannot believe. I'm so sorry. He goes, I don't know what you're talking about, Rod. How are you? Just like that.
Nice.
And I said, this guy's going to be fucking cool.
Because he knows you're freaking.
Coldplay's not my favorite band. Okay. But I know how big they are, and I know what a big opportunity this is to speak with this guy. He said, I don't know what you're talking about, Rod. How you doing?
Wow. He diffused the situation right there.
Yep, he sure did. And then boom, he put me at ease. He put me at ease right away. And then I said, okay, now I know what I want to do. Let's go and do this. And I think I had 20 minutes with them. I took 23 minutes. They're blowing me up. Wrap it up. I'm getting those texts.
Yeah.
Because it was a Zoom interview.
Sure.
He was great, dude. He was absolutely awesome. I started the interview. After we got past that, I wasn't going to dwell on it. I'm like, I'm going to use my time. Don't sit around and him and haw and apologize the whole time. And I ran through some of the things: Stadium, how many million albums, world's sexiest vegan. Somehow you didn't get that title. He got it.
Second.
All these things. And I said, bro, it seems like we kind of know everything about you. I said, from my research, the only thing you haven't been asked is when you put on your shoes, is it sock, shoe, shoe, or is it sock, shoe, shoe? And he said,
are you fucking kidding me?
He said, excuse me? I said,
you should have hung up.
I go, when you put on your shoes, is it sock, shoe, or sock, shoe, shoe? And he laughed.
God.
He says, I really don't like to wear shoes. He's a surfer guy,
Yeah.
and flip-floppy guy and stuff. But I could tell he thought it was funny. I could tell he thought that was a good icebreaker. And that put me at ease as well. So he played along with it. He referenced it later on in the interview, which was cool. So I knew he remembered it. And I don't use that technique for everybody, but that was one I needed to get my heart rate down. So right. I called an audible, and then I went in that direction with it. And it put him at ease as well. And it was such a pleasure to talk to him. Radio Wizard listened to it a couple of days afterwards. He said, Rod, that's one of your best interviews I've ever seen you do. And I said, well, if they make it easy, then it makes the person asking the questions look good. You do have to do your prep.
Right.
I don't go into these things. Larry King said he didn't prep interviews. He just went with it and rolled with it. And that's just not my style. I never thought Larry King was the best interviewer either. I thought he was good. I just never thought he was a great interviewer. I like to go in with all the information. I like to go in and be able to go in a couple of different directions. That's just my over-prepared anal self. Super great dude, man. And then he called the record label, set this up. Record label sends me a text. Hey, Chris called me back. He had a great time. He wants to leave you tickets for the show. So I go, that's awesome. I'm honored. But tell me he does that for everybody. And she said, no, he doesn't. Wow. He really wants you to go to the show, and there might be a possible meet and greet situation. And I'll let you know about that. He'd like to meet you.
Jeez.
Like, holy shit. I guess it did go pretty well.
That's awesome.
So I went to the show. I didn't stay the whole time. The meet and greet situation was going to be off campus, meaning because they played the stadium, right? They played Energy Stadium. They played Sunday night. It was coming back from vacation. It was going to be somewhere not in the stadium. And it was going to be after the show. Oh, so it probably would have been like at 1 a.m. somewhere. And I just can't do that. I don't know. I don't know who I would do that for. Elton John, Bono, but I don't know who I would do that for, but I just couldn't do that. I said, I said, thank him. But I said, tell him I do mornings and I got to get up in the morning, but I'm appreciative of the tickets and I will be at that show. And Coldplay is fucking crazy live, dude.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Dude, it's insane. The first song, there's confetti, like Kiss Rock and Roll All Night. The confetti at the end of the show. Coldplay's doing that the first song.
Holy shit.
And then there's lasers.
Right.
And then the second song, and there's about 150 huge balloons that everybody's playing with and hitting around like you're at a summer beach festival. And
that's awesome.
It's the third song and the place is trashed.
That's great.
And you got a wristband that they're controlling. You have a wristband that lights up and they're controlling the lights. And it's pulsating to the music and you see everybody and somebody's working the lights. It's a spectacle, man. I'll say that it's a spectacle. Everybody put Coldplay on your list. If you kind of like them, then it's worth to go see their show because if you like live music, fucking A, man, they are at the top of their game.
Wow. Yeah. See, I've never been a huge Coldplay guy, but I always want to see him live because just seeing videos of live performances, and he is a talented dude, man.
Man, he's so cool too, man. Like he's engaged with the audience, and like he was in my interview, he's like that on stage. He's connecting to everybody. It's a fucking stadium, but of course they got the camera on him, and he's smiling and he's making jokes and stuff. He's just a really, really cool dude.
Weird. How do they get that bad rap? Like, like it's not cool to like Coldplay. Is it because all their songs are kind of the same and mellow, or?
I don't know. But when I told, my neighbor, they're not really that impressed. But I said that, I just got done interviewing Chris Martin of Coldplay, and the guy from Australia goes, "Was he douchey?"
Yes.
Was he douchey?
Like who says that?
And I said, no, anything but. Is the consensus that because Gwyneth Paltrow seems douchey, and he was married to Gwyneth Paltrow. So does that make him, ergo, he's douchey? I don't know. But that was the first thing out of his face. And I said, no, anything but. He was very, very cool.
Yeah.
Super likable. Like I'd love to have a beer with him.
You could have, but you went home because you had to go night.
Yeah. Yeah. Roddy Tai, 1 o'clock. No, not happening.
What? Yeah, you would have just turned from the show and went over to the studios, man.
Yeah. Hey,
I heard you got new studios, but we got to take a break.
Yeah, let's take a break.
So I want to hear.
I don't even want to talk about our fucking new studio. Yeah, we can talk about it real quick.
I just want to hear a quick story about your studio. We got to do our top 5 favorite cult songs. And I started a new job. I want to talk about that, what it's like to go back into the workplace for the first time in like 7 years.
All right. I do want to hear about your job. Let's talk about our only sponsor still. Yeah. I mean, we only have one. Well, maybe if we did these once in a while, maybe we would have more sponsors. Guys, when you go to New Orleans, okay, are you booking a trip? Are you doing a girls' weekend? Are you doing a guys' weekend? The thing about New Orleans, which this is just a commercial for New Orleans right now, it's as wild as mild as you want, okay? How many times have I told you, yeah, it's just me and the kid, we went in, you can do a family trip. You can do the wild dudes weekend. You can do some crazy weekend with somebody that you're having fun with, girls weekend, whatever. But the Pirate Tour kind of works into all of that, man. All right. Piratesofthequarter.com is the website. At Pirates of the Quarter is all the social. It's a walking tour. It's fun. And you're walking around, you're drinking your beers, and it's loaded with information. There's no other tour like it in the French Quarter. You're going to be so surprised. Okay. There's so much more to New Orleans than just Bourbon Street. And it's not like this is going to be a huge block of time. It's just wow, we're here in New Orleans. I've heard Ron talk about this pirate tour. Let me do this, man. Let me go and do this. So you can book it ahead of time. You can book it. They're flexible, man. Book your tour, piratesofthequarter.com. Save a little time to discover the pirate history of New Orleans, because pirates played a huge, massive part in the history of New Orleans. And what they're talking about are things that really historically happened. Boring, anything but boring. Okay. This stuff and the way that it gets delivered to you on these tours, it's unbelievable, man. Details, piratesofthequarter.com. Jason, you started a new job. You're a program director. And here's a little bit of behind the curtain. When we started, right before we hit record on this podcast, Jason said, yeah, can we keep this to around an hour? I'm like, what are you, the fucking program director now? You're timing me? Hey, let's go. Let's get these breaks down. Let's cut the chatter. Okay, let's go. Time to lean, time to clean.
Let's go. Let's get it light, tight, and bright, bro.
That's great. You're a program director now. You're the fucking boss. Now I got a program director on this podcast. The whole point of this podcast was to get away from fucking suits like you. Okay. You're the enemy. You're the enemy now. Okay. I don't want to fucking hang out. I don't want to hang out with program directors. Ew.
The boss, man.
When was the last time I quit this podcast? I'm not doing it with a program director. Piece of shit.
It is weird because like let me explain, because believe me, I have to say things to people, and I'm saying them to, because I have like employees now that report to me, and it's the weirdest fucking thing, because
it's like when you're a parent, you say things, you catch yourself saying things to your kids like, oh shit, I sound like my parents.
Yes, that's exactly what it's become now. It's very strange, but it's great because I walked into a place where there's a lot of great, talented people. So that part of it, I got lucky. There's a lot of great people that I work with, and they're awesome. And they get it. So that makes my job a lot easier. And it 3 weeks in, honeymoon period. Don't get me wrong. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid or blind to it all, but so far so good. So far so good. But for all the years I was on the classic rock station here in New Orleans, right? I did it from my house, and I pre-recorded every break. So I'd come up here. I was on the air at 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. It's about 9:30. I'd cruise up in here, my coffee, in my underwear, in a t-shirt, and I'd do my show. And by 10:45, I was done with that part of my day. Nobody knew that for all those years. And I was at the top of the ratings heap for that whole time. I was killing it in middays, and it was great. I never talked about that shit because that's not what I do. So I went from having nothing, no boss, to not having to wear clothes, to playing with my dog, to going in. I had to go out and buy new clothes, not just short shorts. And I had to, I had to go and actually be around people. And I haven't been around people in like 3 years. And it was very, very strange. There's the office politics, which you go in every day. So this is nothing new to anybody. But to me, this was all brand new. So I'm in there and I get grinding my gears right out of the gate. Cause you know how I am, man. If it's time to go to work, we're working now. We're working. Yep. And I'm hammering keyboards and I'm making calls and doing all this shit, right? And people just walk by your office and they kind of lean in with the coffee mug, go, so how's your weekend? And I'm like, what? What do you fucking want? I didn't say it like that, but I'm thinking like, what do you mean, how's my fucking weekend? It's Monday, bro. I got work to do. I'm not in that having a coffee, chitty chatting. Hey, oh, did you go fishing? Yeah, I went fishing. Oh, how was it? Did you catch any fish? Who gives a fuck? Right? Like that's
Right.
how internally I'm thinking. I don't care. And the office stuff that goes on, dude, for not being around it for so long is really fucking, that's the adjustment. Doing the job. I get the job. I can do the job.
Right. I'm going through a little bit of that right now because the sales force was on a different floor all these years. And then they would come up to my office and they would hang. They're really not allowed in the on-air studio, but we just didn't see them because they weren't in the office. And since the pandemic and everything,
Right.
we were going in, nobody's in the office. Now, you'd mentioned that we made a move and the salespeople are there. They're there. But it's just, we're seeing them because everybody's on the same floor. And it's kind of what you said. I go from the studio, I go get my water, and then I go back to the studio. Like, I'm not chit-chatting, So I can relate to what you're saying. You've been out of it a lot longer, but yeah, I'm in that. There's people around. Fuck. I just keep my head down. I get my water. I go get my dumb cauliflower out of the refrigerator, and then I just go back into the studio, and that's it. I know they're not allowed in there, so I haven't like made the rounds and just stop by at desks and chit chatted with people. But you got to get back into that a little bit.
It's weird. And look, as you know, because I'm a suit now, I'm one of the leaders. You're
the
have
man.
to kind of be that guy.
Man.
I've got to be engaging and cool with the staff, and I'm fine with it. It's cool to hear these people's stories because it's like I've been out of it so long. It's relearning that skill. And I had forgotten.
You got to act interested in what they're saying. Don't lie.
Yeah. Right. Oh, and I do. I care a little. So let me just bring this up because I'm sure this has happened to most people. So you're at work and you're banging away. And look, in my home studio, I literally have a bathroom like 10 steps away. And it's mine. It's mine.
Yeah.
I'm the only guy that uses it. That's the greatest thing on earth. Well, you go back to the office, you're sharing with peeps. You're sharing with people you barely know. You're sharing with coworkers. So here's a little incident that happened the other day. I got to piss bad. So I run down the hall, open the door, not thinking, close the door, lock it, because there's a one holer in there. And I take a breath and someone had just destroyed.
Yeah.
Someone had just destroyed the room.
Yeah, it's been a long time since you'd had to smell coworker shit.
I had to huff shit, and I'm taking the longest piss of my life. So I'm trying not to breathe. I got my shirt up over my nose. You know how you do it. You're trying everything not to smell somebody else's funk, which is awful. So I'm like trying not to breathe. Wash my hands quick. I open the door and I go to walk out, and there's a dude standing there ready to come in. Like
He thinks it's yours.
He thinks it's mine. And I'm like, no. And then I'm like, I can't make this better. I just said, yeah, it was me. And I walked out. I'm like, what an awful moment. This is why being at home has been so great.
Yeah, you got to smell other people's shit.
The boss and the new guy shit the fucking room to death.
This new building smells delicious that I'm in. I mean, it really does. It smells awesome. Like when you walk into like a Marriott or something, you have there's that wonderful smell in the lobby. This building smells like that. The bathroom smells like that. When I get there, it's like I'm there at 4:30, right? Smells awesome. Okay. Somebody goes in there and carves a turd about 8:00, and that bathroom never recovers. It just doesn't smell the same until the next morning when I get there. And then the filtration system, then it gets back to it. But when I go in there after 8:00, it doesn't recover. Okay. It never recoups that beautiful smell first thing in the morning because I'm the first one pissing in there. It's awesome. It's lovely. But yeah, something's going on there. But you're the boss now. You have people, you're telling people what to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And you got to, what is it like? Just quickly, you want to put your coat of paint on things. And I'm wondering, how was the paint when you showed up?
Yeah, that's a loaded question because a lot of it was pretty good. There's a lot of pretty good things happening. And there's just a lot of little things. Like I've never been the guy who's like, well, I didn't do that, so I want to make it mine. I got to piss on that fucking blade of grass like a dog does. I've never given a shit. If the logo's fine, keep the logo. If the voice person is fine, keep that guy. If the music's great, keep the music. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking to do that. I'm looking to take whatever someone else has done and try and improve it, whatever that means, right? And hit the marks that I've been told I've got to hit. Get ratings for this. Okay, if that's my marching orders, I'm going to have to move this around and adjust this. And that's it. I'm not that guy. I'm not that dog that's got to piss on every blade of grass. We both have had bosses like that. Wow, fuck that guy. He didn't know what he's doing, and we're going to change everything. I don't think that's necessary. It's a lot of wasted effort a lot of times, unless it is a complete shit show.
Right.
See what I'm doing? Changing fucking everything. No, I'm not. I don't see the need for it, man. Make your adjustments, see how it works, keep moving forward. That's it.
You're sounding a little like a fucking program director right now. It's kind of making me nauseous.
You got to give those nice answers. I've learned to quickly.
It's really kind of like a fucking dagger in my belly. And then it's just twisting, and it's twisting as you're talking. And I'm like, ugh, a fucking man. You're on the other side. You're the dark side.
Rod, I thought the way you described the Taylor Hawkins article in the Rolling Stone, I think you did. You had a lot of great points, but for next time, maybe we could work it. Like, that's how you do it. You've been in there check sessions when the man's like, well, you really got, you really hit that good, but for next time, maybe you could just, instead of saying you suck, because that just pisses people off. You've been in those meetings, and those aren't fun. They're not fun.
You can't tell people they suck anymore. Here's how you grade papers, just so you know. I don't know. I mean, I'm not telling you how to do your job because I don't want it. Dude. But what I've heard, when you and I were coming up and you sat down and you did an air check, okay? An air check was, laugh all you want, a cassette. You recorded your breaks, meaning every time that you did, a front sell of a song, every time you talked about where somebody was going to be and you read some sort of a community service thing, every time that you talked during your shift, you would record your voice. And then you would hand that to the program director, and he would sit down and he would tear it apart, and he would tell you all the things that you did wrong.
Right.
Reading a few articles now on today's modern times, you are not supposed to be pointing out what they did wrong. You just talk about the things they did good.
Yeah.
That's the new way. That is the new come over here, hop on my titty, and then I'm going to rub your head, and then we're going to talk about the positives. And then if I don't mention anything else, those are the things that maybe you need to work on. But let's just talk about what you did was good. As you're suckling my tit, okay? Let's just talk about what you did was good. Dude, I'm hearing this. I'm reading these articles, and I said, you got to be fucking kidding me. How are these kids going to get good if you're not told that what you did sucked?
Yeah.
I just don't know. I just don't know any other way, man. I don't know.
I actually, I had to do the air check session with my air staff last week. And I just wanted to find a baseline and just start talking to them and say, hey, look, so I was telling old blue stories real quick. I said, some of my earlier air checks, I still don't sleep at night. I wake up with PTSD because I would sit through it and it would just be a screaming match one way towards me. And then the boss would pull the cassette out of the player and throw it at me and go, get out. That's how I learned to get better really fast on the radio.
Facts, things that actually happened back in the day. Yes, continue.
So that's what I was telling them. They're like, holy shit. I said, don't worry, I don't have any cassettes. I can't throw shit at you. And then, I was very positive, but I will give constructive criticism. There is a way to polish it up. You can still say negative shit. Like, hey, that was probably not what you should be doing. You should do it like this instead, or try it like this. But whatever. It's a work in progress.
It's why I like football, because they still get yelled at.
Yes.
Okay. Guess what? Basketball players don't get yelled at. Okay. They don't. That's just not the way you get through. Baseball players, they don't get yelled at. Football players, they still get yelled at. I kind of like that. I respond to that. I respect it. I like it. Okay. I like my people. I like my superiors yelling at their subordinates,
I think there's a balance, though. I think, we've talked about the movie. Shit, I just had it too. The Drummer, and Not My Tempo.
Whiplash,
right? Okay, that's a little extreme. Okay,
it's a super extreme movie, but he Did he get the performance he wanted out of that kid? Yes, he did.
We almost killed him 10 times.
He almost killed him. You're right. And drove him to a nervous breakdown. Of course, and of course, things that I'm saying, like, I don't respond. Radio Wizard doesn't yell at me.
He knows better.
Does he tell me things that he thought were better than others? Of course he does. He's part of that new wave of doing things, and it's good. And not everything was great the way that it was before. No. It's the same thing where, my mom beat the crap out of me. I don't see myself ever hitting my child, No. So, but it does. I did read an article. What I did say to you was based on facts, where they're not telling people in air checks what they did wrong.
That's dumb.
They're just saying what they did right.
That's fucking dumb, dude.
And that's a little too much on the other side, right?
You got to get it down the middle. You can say, hey, look, maybe that wasn't the best thing to say in that situation. You can say that sucked without coming out and going, hey, that sucked. You can soften the blow, but still you have to critique. I get critiqued. Everyone does. And you should. If you're not, well, you're not going to get better either. You need that motivation. You need a kick in the ass once in a while. I think there's a balance between whiplash and just saying, hey, suckle my teat and everything's awesome. No. You got to find that balance. Because my son's been taking piano, playing music with the New Orleans Jazz. It's a school. So when you buy your ticket to Jazz Fest, a lot of that money goes to different charities. And this is one of the things to keep jazz music alive in the city of New Orleans. They reinvest in the youth every year. And it's awesome. But he's told me stories. He goes, it's not whiplash. Okay. It's not that. He goes, but, and he's 13. So he's playing ensembles with other players who are all just learning. They're good, but they're still learning to play together, which is hard. He says, we'll be cruising along in a song and the drummer, and these are well-known jazz players around the city. These guys do this because they want the kids to be taught right and good. And they teach them not just how to play their instrument, but how to make sure you show up to gigs on time. And they teach them to be real musicians, all the basics of the business side of it. Mm-hmm. So my son's like, we'll be playing along and someone will fuck up. Someone will screw up and he'll go, all right, stop. You'd be fired. Okay. Look, you'd be fired. If you were in a real band, they would have fired you because if you can't get that part right, you won't make it in this town. You won't be in that band. He goes, you would have been fired. Now let's try it again. And here's what to do. So my son's like, he's like, yeah, he pretty much fires everyone in the band at least 2 or 3 times every time they show up. Yes, but he explains it. He goes, oh yeah, see, you'd be out of the band. You would never you would never get called up for a session. You would never get called up to play in any of the bands in New Orleans because the word travels so fast around the musicians in this town. And he's explaining it. So in a way, he's kind of middle ground whiplash right there. And my son's like, yeah, I go, dude, every time I pick him up, I'm like, did you get fired today? He goes, no, I didn't. He goes, everybody else did, but I got out of there without getting fired. I go, well, you might've done something right today. So I think that's a good example of kind of that middle ground. Why did you guys move to new studios? A whole new building, or is it just the studios?
Whole new building, downsizing, don't need the square footage. Most businesses are realizing that, hey, this hybrid work from home, work in the office, you don't need the space. So much money is being wasted by businesses on rent. Mm-hmm. So the quick story is when I got here, we had 3 floors. Okay, we're in a big building in the Galleria. One whole floor is 15,000 square feet. That's like just a generic rectangular building in the Galleria area. One whole floor, wall to wall, 15,000 square feet. We had 3 of those. Okay, it's a lot. And 6 radio stations. So what you do is you have all the salespeople, you have all the promotions people on one floor, sales on one floor, and then all the radio stations, the programming people, us, on another floor. Then they realized, well, listen, we can get rid of one of these floors. And that was about probably 7-8 years ago. So we've been operating with 2 15,000 square foot floors, sales and promotions all on one and the radio stations on the other. Well, then the pandemic hits and everyone's working from home. There's one whole floor, 15,000 square feet that nobody's using. And not everybody's showing up to the programming floor. We moved to a building. Now, again, I started 45,000 square feet, right? Yeah. 3 times 15. Then we went down to 30. We are in a 10,000 square foot floor of this building. It's half of one of the floors of a big building, 10,000 square feet for everybody. It's a big change, bro. It's a big change.
Yeah, it's tight.
What was nixed was me having an office. I do not have an office. Very few people have offices. There's cubicles. Everyone was given a laptop. You got this goofy earpiece. Everyone's on the move, man. Wherever you want to work, you sit down and that's where you do your job. Think of, I said, listen, I can't come in here and sit on a fucking beanbag like Google and prep the show. Okay. I'm not doing that. Correct. So there's no fucking nap pods because we don't have the room for it. But it is very sterile. There's still cubicles, but you could dock in anywhere and anyone could do their job anywhere.
I kind of like that part of it.
It's a new way of thinking. It's not wrong. Salespeople are on a Tuesday, Thursday, or a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. There's not even enough parking spots to have everybody there on the same day, nor is there room. So the studios are smaller. The studio actually that we got is big. It's a big studio. It's very nice. It's all new. And it's just, everything's in a different spot. And it's not all the kinks are worked out of everything yet. And it's set up for the future. And it's not set up for a guy that does as much as we do in the morning show. And they don't want a lot of customization. They want, if Bobby Bones comes to Houston, all he has to do is walk into my studio and dial in Bobby Bones and boom, everything's to his settings. Right. That's the way they want it. Cookie cutter. The studios now, not the music or anything like that, but cookie cutter. They want everything to be the same. And I've had to make all kinds of customizations, which they did not want to do, but they did them. So working through it, it's a pain in the ass. I don't like bitching about work and bitching about my job because it's still awesome and I love it. It's just, I knew where everything was. If you see a guitar player shredding, look where his eyes are. Because when somebody fucking has been doing it a long time, they just shred and they don't even look at their fingers. They know that fretboard, okay? And it would be like somebody adding a couple of extra strings and moving around every fret. Fuck, now I'm thinking about where my hand is going. You're hesitant. And I'm a guy that hosts the show and I run the board and I'm covering a ton of real estate as I'm talking and nothing's where it used to be. So it's taking away from me just talking and my stream of consciousness because I'm really thinking about, okay, we're in A, hit this button here, boom. As I'm talking, I'm trying to make sure the mechanics are there and it's shitty for me. I'll get over it. But there's some lumps. There's some lumps and some fucking bruises and some dead air. There's some dead air. There's some, oh shit. Why is that not there? Damn it. Where's the phone? Where's that guy? He dropped. Chile, where's that guy? He dropped. Shit. I hit the wrong button.
It's a lot of bullshit. Yeah. No, well, it's the same thing. Like going back to your Chris Martin interview, is like you over prep so that when you're in the moment, you just are on cruise control because you've got it all in your head.
Yes.
When you're driving the bus or you're on the air with that show, you don't have to think about where anything is. Your arms are just doing it. It's muscle memory. When it changes it just fucks everything up, man. Like right now I'm going through it a little bit because every system in that studio is completely different. And I'm just like, you have to know for me to say anything. I'm like, where's the fucking microphone button? It's that bad. I'm like, where's the button to do this? And it's like relearning everything all over again, just so I can say dumb shit on the radio.
Yeah. There's some lumps. There's some bumps. I'll get through it. It sucks right now. And we were supposed to kind of put that studio in flight simulator and be able to kind of practice and do some fake shows and just to kind of work it out. And they're like, no, we've already switched over. The studio is now live and you're just going to have to go tomorrow. So it was rip off the Band-Aid. We're going to do this. It's going to sound bad, guys. And I told everybody we're in the new studio. Sounds like ass. When you hear dead air, it's my fault. I run the board. I push all the buttons. I move all the levers. I'm in charge of the smoke machine. I'm the laser guy. I do all of that. Everything that you hear on the air, every element you hear on the air, every bell, every whistle, that's me. So when you hear it in the wrong spot or you don't hear it, it's me. So
Right.
I'm apologizing, but yeah, everyone knows that shit's on my shoulders. Why do I run my own board and host the show at this point? Fuck, I don't know. Nobody's running their own boards.
It doesn't make any sense because I feel like I know the timing on everything. I know when I'm going to do shit. I know better than anyone else I can ever train. You know what I mean? Because we come from that world of that's how we got trained and we fly the plane. No matter if we got a co-pilot or not, I'm flying the fucking plane. You know, I want to be the guy in control because I know the second that the dude who's running the board for me, he fucks up once, I'll be like, get your ass out of here. I'm doing it now. Yep. I could never do it that way. I couldn't do it.
Dude, I'm a wolf child girl howling for you. Wildflower.
How the fuck? And I want to bring this up with the cult. Ian Astbury turning 60 this week. They kind of fell through the cracks. We've talked about certain bands kind of fall through the cracks. Why didn't they, you know, because grunge came along and, you know, bands like Tesla kind of got left behind because they were this odd sounding band and they came out kind of at the wrong time because grunge was destroying, you know, no one could figure out in alternative radio where to put the Black Crowes because they were great, but it didn't sound like the grunge. So what do you do with them? You know what I mean? There's a lot of these bands along the way that kind of got not lost, but they just probably didn't get what they should have gotten out of their deal. Looking at the cult, like Electric was from 87. She Sells Sanctuary was 85.
Love is 85. And again, how many times have I gone to this? Fucking Sue Ryan, man. She had it. So 85, that's when I got on board with that Love album, man. But you're right.
All their good shit, 85 through 91, really is kind of their stuff. Ceremony came out in 91. So they're in that world of, think about 87 to 91. What's going on? You've got Guns N' Roses. You got the hair metal is massive. It's all there. And, you know, watching a couple of videos as I prepped my top 5, I'm like, oh, there's elements of some hair here, but they didn't have that sound and they really didn't embrace the hair metal style. You know, they had the big hair. There was one video for She Sells Sanctuary. Literally, Ian Astbury has a very Axl Rose look. He's got the bandana on. He's kind of got some moves that are similar. So it felt like they were being told to fit in, but not fit in, you know?
The Love album, that's a totally different sound. They're jangly. It's almost...
Right.
It's pop alternative before it was called alternative. Really. It was almost a little gothic.
Yes.
It's really hard to figure out what is this. It sounded different. And that's why I liked it so much. The Love album, everyone kind of knows. I don't have to teach everybody about the cult, but then they come out with Electric. They go out and get Rick Rubin and they sound like a fucking completely different band.
Yeah.
So they might have been chasing a sound a little bit too. And that was more of the direction that they went in. So, I mean, listen, there's plenty of bands. You go back and listen to early, I'm trying to think who really made a turn like that, because God damn, it's not that Love's great. Love's going to show up in my top 5. But Electric is more of what they continued with. They got Rick Rubin on board. They put out the Electric album and they said, okay, we're onto something here. This kind of fits. And this might make us a little bit more popular here in the States, because Love did very well in the UK. It did really well in Canada too. Right. And that's maybe why we heard it so much, because it was on Canadian radio quite a bit. But yeah, you said Ceremony, and that's where they dropped off. So you're wondering, like, where do they fit in? The truth of the matter is, and I'm going to get blown up by people that just love this band, the quality of the music wasn't there.
Right.
It wasn't there. Ceremony, everything started to go down, including, I didn't even think Ceremony was a great album, to be honest with you. I told you that my cult albums are going to be 3 of them. There's 3 cult albums out of the 10 or 11 that are available.
Yeah.
You know, and Love was their second album. So you got to be careful. It's not the first 3. It's album 2, 3, and 4 for me, that, you know, are their big albums. And of course, I'm talking about Love, Electric, and Sonic Temple. So they never were huge. They were always a 3, and then they maybe got to a 4,000 seat venue band at their peak. They always were support for other bands, and they always were around. They did break up for a while. That didn't help them. But they went away for a while, and then they came back. They put out some stuff that was interesting. And I always liked Billy Duffy as a guitar player. I always thought he had a great sound. I thought that he definitely has his own sound. Not all guitarists have that. It's not as recognizable as like a Eddie Van Halen or a Slash. But I think Duffy has that sound that I can hear a song and I know it's his guitar, you know? So you got that signature vocal, you got that signature cool guitar player. The elements were there. They just never rose to superstardom.
No, and when you say the vocals, I mean, the second you hear that voice, you're like, oh, that's the Cult. Like that's one of those voices that just sticks out, and unbelievable voice. You know, he wasn't, but going back to my hair metal thing, he wasn't trying to sound all like the high pitched screaming all the time. He sang in his world. You know, he never was like, oh, wait, these hair metal guys is like, you know, Coverdale and all these other guys are wailing these high registers. I'm going to keep it where I'm at. Keep it right here.
It's a different kind of voice for sure. It's just like, you know, anyone from New Orleans will know Fred LeBlanc, Cowboy Mouth's got a different voice.
Yep.
Modern times, Volbeat, guy's got a different voice, man. You know,
interesting. Yeah.
These metal shows, dude has a different voice. You know, I mean, it's like Elvis and Danzig. You know, I mean, it's weird, but it works.
It works for them,
but it doesn't. But it doesn't allow them to become huge. And I'm not saying that Ian Astbury is the reason. I think the songwriting wasn't quite there, but I also think the vocals, you know, it was a different sound. It was a different sound. It was a sound that I really, really liked.
Had they come out 5 years later, it might have been different, you know, because he had that deep voice. And then think about it, that time period, you're looking like 92, 93, 94. Everybody had a deep voice then. Remember, it went from all the high pitched screaming to Eddie Vedder and Scott Weiland, and it went to Chris Cornell. And you had more of the baritone sound on a lot of the songs that were all over the radio at the time.
In my head on Sunday morning.
So, you know, sometimes it's timing, you know?
I don't know. I love the band. I absolutely love the band. Ian Astbury turning 60. I sent it over to you. I said, let's do a top 5. It's just, I think it's mine. I'm hacky just because it's 3 albums, man. It's 3 albums for me. Did you pick anything off of any other albums?
No, no. I mean, and I picked the hits. I didn't get diving into any deep cuts. I basically stuck with their big songs, and because I love them. I freaking love those songs. And I've never really spent a lot of time deep cutting the Cult. You know, I just haven't. Now I will, of course.
But I listened to those 3 albums, start to finish, fucking A. Each one of them is brilliant in its own way. Each one of them is absolutely brilliant.
Why don't you start us off? Because you're probably going to have a deep cut that I'm going to be pissed I didn't pick. So
I don't think I have any deep cuts. You know, I just wanted to let people know that I knew what I was talking about. And Dirty Little Rock Star is a pretty good song. 2007, the album Born Into This. It's okay.
Okay.
There's a song called Rise. It's pretty good. 2001, Beyond Good and Evil. Okay. Is it top 5? Fuck no. No. Nothing came close to those 3 albums. No. Nothing at all came close. Here we go. Here is my top 5 favorite Cult songs from 3 of their albums. In at number 5, She Sells Sanctuary. I had to put it in there.
I love that song.
It was the biggest song off of the Love album, 1985. It's the one that still gets played on retro shows. It's if there's any kind of a throwback. It's weird because we don't really even put that in for Throwback Thursday. It has been in a couple of times, but what the hell does a song from 1985 mean to somebody? You know?
It's weird because
against an old Pearl Jam song. I mean, it's so much older.
But it's such a dancey song too. It's a great song. I love that song. Yeah, but that's a good point. You don't hear it on the radio ever, really, anywhere. Classic rock's never touched it. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
So She Sells Sanctuary from their 1985 album Love. That's in at number 5. In at number 4, Peace Dog. found you, baby, way up in the sky. I love his voice. I really actually do love the weirdness of his voice. Peace Dog was always a huge track for me. I don't even know if they ever released that as a single. They do play that live as part of their set. In 1987, I'm graduating high school. The Electric album is out. And, we're playing a couple of these songs in my garage for my graduation party. We're playing a couple of these songs because they're playable, kind of like an AC/DC song. The Electric album had those hooks. They had those AC/DC hooks to them with the weird vocals. And they were so attractive to a young musician because they were pretty basic and you could play along with them. 4 is Peace Dog. Number 3, off of Sonic Temple, Firewoman.
Love it. Love it.
I struggled with Firewoman and Sun King.
Dude, it takes him
those two.
It takes him 20 seconds to say the word fire. I love that. He stretches fire out for like a mile every time. It's so great.
Yeah. So Firewoman in at 3. In at number 2, go back to Electric, Wildflower.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a wolf child. Sorry. Wildflower, that one 100%. We're playing in my garage. Tom Morris and I, waiting high school. We're playing that song. You could play that song on any one of the instruments.
I don't know about that.
Obviously, I could sing because I'm a wolf child.
Right.
Wildflower is my number 2, and my number 1, it goes back to the Love album. Here Comes the Rain. I think it's the best song they've ever done.
Really?
Rain off of Love. I absolutely love that song. I love the gothicness of it. There is a video for that. They got the dancing girls. They look just like the lead singer. They got the long black hair. It's awesome. Billy Duffy hadn't grown his hair out yet. He grew it out like more mullety and electric, but then he had he had long hair for Sonic Temple, but he had like the cool slick back kind of greaser look.
Yeah.
Looked so fucking cool. Album to album to album too. They looked like a different band, kind of Motley Crue-ish. How Motley Crue, went from glam, and then they wound up being a biker band, when Girls, Girls, Girls came out. They looked different. They had a different look at each album. Theater of Pain was a different look too.
Right.
The Cult changed their look along with their sound. And that was another thing that was attractive to me. I thought that was so cool that they just kind of revamped everything.
Why is it that when you say that, I think that the Cult did it because they were just awesome and cool and they were just doing it. And when you say that Motley Crue did it, it felt like it was sort of cheesed. Why do I feel that the Cult I give more street cred to than Motley Crue? Even though Motley Crue's got plenty of street cred, I'm not saying they don't. You know what I mean? Like it felt like Motley Crue was always trying to chase that next thing, and the Cult may have been too.
But I don't know that Motley Crue was chasing it so much so than kind of building that wagon, right, with the looks that they created. I mean, and that was something that they went out to do. I mean, Too Fast for Love is all leather, right? Yeah. It's leather, but it's leather high heels, with some Kiss Alice Cooper influence.
Right.
And then it goes to more glammy, and then it gets really, and then it goes to more hair. Then it goes to more glam for Theater of Pain. Definitely glammed out. I mean, think about Nikki wearing that white and black striped tuxedo thing.
Looking awesome.
And then Girls, 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 they're a biker gang.
Yeah.
They changed their look, and that was something that they did on purpose. The Cult did it earlier, though.
True. Same time, really.
This is all around the same time. You're right.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I did feel I had to mention some other albums of theirs, and I just could not, and I just wouldn't do it just so that I could put some kind of subpar song in my top 5 to mention another album. I just couldn't do it. As a matter of fact, I only got one Sonic Temple song in there, and Mark Petrocelli's going to beat me up for that because it's probably his favorite album. His top 5 cult songs probably come from Sonic Temple. I can't wait to see his comments.
I've got a couple. So, you know what? I had Rain. Rain didn't make my top 5, but it's right there. That I struggle with that one, putting it on my top 5. I love that freaking song.
I love it. And is it as good as She Sells Sanctuary? I heard She Sells Sanctuary too much. I don't know.
Probably.
I don't know. I just didn't want to, because I'm tired of She Sells Sanctuary. I'm a little tired of it. It's when we talked about Crazy Train and Ozzy. It really should take away from the greatness of that song just because you're sick of hearing it, or it's
right.
It's kind of like their Stairway to Heaven. So that one I definitely shoehorned in there. I felt it had to be in the top 5.
So I kind of came at it from a different angle. Actually, we've got a couple of similarities. My number 5 was Sweet Soul Sister.
Oh, it's
Sonic Temple 89. I love that song. I love that freaking song. That's at number 5, Sweet Soul Sister. Number 4, Edie, Ciao Baby. That thing just builds. His voice is probably one of the best I've heard it during that song. So freaking great. It's not really a hit, but it's just badass and it sounds great on a jukebox at 3 a.m. when you're hammered. If you can find a jukebox with it.
I did not know that was a real person that they were singing about. I kind of learned that as I was going down my wormhole, and I believe it was some sort of a socialite, New York City, Andy Warhol, Edie Sedgwick. So she was like a hipster type of person that was out there, and I think she did a couple of movie roles, and she was in some movie that was called Ciao Manhattan. Ciao Baby. I just didn't know that it was about a real person. So if Ian Astbury, he became interested. They were recording the Electric album in New York, and then he kind of started learning a little bit about, because they're not from there. So he wrote that about somebody, and she actually is a pretty fascinating person.
Interesting. See, I didn't know that. That's just like the song. Number 3, Love Removal Machine.
Oh, it's a fucking great one.
Big hair in that video, by the way, from 87. Big fucking hair in that video. It was great. That was 3. Number 2, Firewoman. There we go. We got a duplicate. I had it number 2. You had it at 3. The dude can scream out the word fire for like 45 seconds in that song. It's so great. And then I had it number 1. It's hard for you to say. She Sells Sanctuary.
Number 1.
I haven't heard. I was just listening to it 20 minutes ago before we started the podcast, and I'm listening to it and I'm going, I haven't heard that. And this is going back to your point. I haven't heard it in a long time, and it felt fresh to me. It felt fresh, and I was like, God damn, I love this song. So it's going right on my playlist now. It'll be on my running playlist for tomorrow. I'll be running up and down the bayou with that because I haven't heard it in a while. But if you beat the shit out of it, it sort of pulls into your top 5 realignment. You know what I mean? But the Cult was never my band at the time. I was in different music at the time. The Cult never registered until years later with me. I wasn't an early adapter to it. I caught on later.
I got to give her the credit, man. She got me in there right away. And then boom, Electric, I got it, the week it came out, we were waiting, and it's just like, you just couldn't believe. It's like, holy shit, this is like a different band now. I mean, what's going on? I don't know that I knew much about Rick Rubin back then, but boy, I mean, he really puts his fucking stink on stuff. I mean that in a good way. Right. It's just golly. I was on board with them right away. I saw them. Lenny Kravitz opened up for the Cult, like in Toronto. The Cult was really big in Canada first.
Right.
They were really, really big in Canada. Canadian radio embraced them long before the States did, because we had an alternative station in Canada, CFNY, long before. I mean, you got to think all of this is pre-alternative. Like nobody's running around saying alternative,
Didn't exist.
I kind of put that Cult in that rarefied air. I mean, in that Jane's Addiction air, of Godfathers laying down the groundwork, and then there's going to be people that are going to say, well, The Cure, and and I'm okay with that too. I'm 100% okay with putting all 3 of those bands on the same shelf,
right?
Because you're saying, like, where do they fit in? It's because they varied so much in their sound. If they didn't really stick with that they were closer to The Cure on Love than anything else that they ever did. So that's why you can talk about them in the same sentence. I don't think they sound anything like Jane's Addiction, but Jane's Addiction sounded so different. And that's what the Cult did. They sounded different. And before we started calling it alternative, and it's a real simple thing to think right now. It's like, oh, it's alternative. It's alternative to what the mainstream sound is. Well, nobody said that out loud.
No.
You just thought it sounded different. Nobody articulated it. And that's what I liked about it, because you just couldn't put it in a box.
And that's what people like to do. They want to categorize everything. It's what radio programmers do. They categorize everything into these little pods. And you had a band. Think about like you have got the Cult. You mentioned Jane's Addiction. REM is in that world. There was a lot of these late 80s that weren't hair metal or rock, that were just all very underground. It was hard to hear. Maybe college radio or like those weird stations out of Canada we used to get. That's where you'd hear this type of music, man. They never got their shot until years later. Like REM obviously went on to great success. The Cure obviously had great success, but bands like the Cult kind of just stayed in their lane. I mean, I saw them open for Guns N' Roses when Guns N' Roses reunited a couple of years ago. And I've seen the Cult a bunch of times actually. And great live band. Great live band.
Yeah. They've been on a show of ours when I was in New Orleans. So I've seen them a bunch of times. I don't always like the way Ian approaches the songs live. I think he takes a little too much. He has a little too much artistic freedom, and I get it. You got to save your voice over time. But even in the earlier days, I didn't. He didn't hold up live for me. He could hit the notes, but he just kind of, and I wonder if that's because him and Billy, man, they had a fist fight on stage, him and Billy Duffy. So I never thought that he gave it all live for some reason. I didn't like the way that he changed up the songs. It bothered me live, but I still went to go see them. I still went to go see them because I liked them so much. And, the rhythm was there, the songs were there. And I never felt that he came across live great later on.
So Rod, let me lead this into my final thought, because it works into this. Okay. And I want to bring this in because I want to do I almost said reach around. That's not what I was trying to say.
Hey now.
Well, when I found out your name was Rod Dingo, I got excited.
It's not
Rodingo. Sorry, I got that wrong. Shit.
It's not Rodingo.
Anyway, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking, getting all hyped up. We did our Who top 5 favorite songs to prepare for seeing the Who here in New Orleans at Jazz Fest a few weeks ago. You came in, we saw the Who live, and on that podcast, we went round and round about will he or won't he nail the scream. Roger Daltrey hit the scream, the iconic, one of the most iconic screams of all time, in Won't Get Fooled Again. It builds, it builds, it builds. And then all of a sudden he comes out like a banshee and blasts out that iconic scream. So we talked about it we're like, oh, I don't know. Will he do it? Can he do it? And we went round and round. Then the day of the show, we talked about it a little bit more. And we were kind of talking. Everyone in our group, we're all kind of like, is he going to hit that scream? I don't know. That's a tough one. He's old, all this shit. So then as we're building, they're playing the song and you and I are just like, holy fuck, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? We're like we're like running around in circles like little kids with our glitter on our face.
Here it comes.
Holy fuck. And we both sat there waiting. He hits, the scream comes out. I got super excited. I jump up and down. I'm like, holy fuck, he nailed it. Holy shit, it was great. And then you said something almost immediately after I came to the ground. You go,
right as your feet hit the ground.
You go, dude, that was fucking recorded. That was not live. And it's funny because as you said it, I'm like, that really sounded different than the rest of the show has sounded. Like it was all connecting. You called it right out of the gate, and it was fucking recorded, dude. He recorded it. Now, I don't really fault it for that because that scream is ridiculous. Everyone wants to hear it. Everyone wants to believe he's doing it in the crowd.
I even said, I'll give him a pass if he holds the microphone 3 feet from his fucking mouth and just tries.
Right. It's a hard one, though.
I know, but I then get one of the kids in the band to do it. or get, you got the girl background singers or whatever. Let them do it. I'm okay with it. I wanted it live. I just wanted it live in whatever form they could do, whatever form they were able to pull off. I just wanted it live. And I get it. Get some backing tracks here and there. And, maybe you pump in a little keyboards. They had a lot of people up on that stage. And I don't know if it's an ego thing. He didn't want, anybody doing his signature scream, but boy, it was right off the fucking album.
Yeah.
It was sampled right off the album. I'm like, he has not had that voice for the 40 years that he's been on stage. And then he just decides to sound like he's 26, 24 years old right there. And then he goes back to the 70-year-old man singing the rest of the song. Come on, guys. Even do an old version. Do your old man version of it and track that.
Right. Go into the studio, record it.
I would have appreciated that more.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I can see not relying on, you don't want to blow something and then, because that wasn't the last song they did.
No.
They still had 6 songs to do. I just thought it was a mistake. Here's me telling The Who they made a mistake. One of the greatest rock bands of all time. I was a little let down. Not what I was hoping for. The crowd loved it. I'm not most people. Most people had no fucking idea.
Right.
And they all lost their mind. And I wasn't there to shit on their moment.
Yeah,
I was just shit on their moment because you got caught up in it. And I just go, track.
Nope. I may have not dropped a 10 in that moment. I fucking went down to about a 6 because, man, I was so happy.
Bad. I understand you wanted it so bad. And then you heard it. And then for just a fleeting moment, you were taken to a place.
Yep. Which is the magic of live music. It's the magic of live music. That's what you want to have happen. So this brings me back to go full circle now. Let's go bring it back to the beginning when we were talking about Taylor Hawkins. And we talked about the fact that, he was apparently saying that, hey, man, I'm 50 now. I don't know if I can run a 3-hour show where I am just destroying the drums for 3 hours. And he was worried about, man, can I do this forever when I'm 60, when I'm 70, like these other bands do? So you got a situation here with Roger Daltrey, and it's harder when you're the singer because your voice can go. That's hard because what do you do in that situation? Do you bring a second drummer on stage? You start getting older, you got to change the way you do biz. You got to change it. So it kind of brings it back around to the Taylor conversation we were having earlier. You could see why he's like, man, I got a standard. The standard is I don't want to be pumping in drum tracks while I'm playing the drums on stage. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing. And I don't think there was, out of the, 40, 50,000 people watching The Who that day, or however many it were, it was you. Once you said it to me, it was me. Maybe there was 5 other people in that whole fucking crowd that were like, oh, dude, that sounded canned. Because we listen differently.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares because you're drunk. You're in the moment. You're like, holy fuck, he did it, man. He hit the screen. And by the way, just so you know, The Who were fucking great.
Yeah.
Great. Like the windmill. Dude, every time you saw Pete Townsend whip that windmill, you're like, oh, that's still fucking cool.
And he did out of the gate first song, okay? The windmill comes out. I'm like, yes. Because I'd never seen him before. That was my first time. So, if I got to go 5, 6 songs without seeing the windmill, bro, let's go, man. First song, I'm like, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. Again, stupid little move. And I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
This is The Who. This is The Who. This is an old man Who. This is The Who.
Yeah. No, and they were great. And again, it was one of those things that just hearing a Who song or watching The Who on video, I never realized until I saw The Who the first time that how Pete Townsend is just, he attacks the guitar. He's not just strumming it or playing it. He's attacking that fucking thing. He beats the shit out of it when he's performing live. It's unbelievable, his style of play. And he actually ended up later that night going down. Jesus, some of these nights you wish you could go and do some of these later shows. Pete Townsend, later that night, he went over to Preservation Hall, which is a small little jazz club right off of Bourbon Street in the French Quarter. And that's where they play jazz like every night of the week. And it's cool. You go in there for 45 minutes. You sit on the dirty benches. You don't drink. It's hot as shit, but it's awesome. It's traditional jazz music. So during Jazz Fest, if someone's in town playing Jazz Fest, they do like these special sessions. And, Nathaniel Rateliff has gone over there and played with the band before. They just bring in whoever's in town and they throw them in. Pete Townsend went over there, jammed with a band, and he was playing his banjo.
That's amazing.
Now, if you just happened to be there that night, Pete Townsend, you got a show that you could only dream of. Could only dream of, dude.
That's the magic of Jazz Fest, man. Everyone likes it. I mean, hearing the Red Hot Chili Peppers play, and Flea was just so generous with his comments about how much they loved the city. And it's just such the musical place. I mean, everyone, we make jokes about it all the time. Doobie Doo, did you know we're from California? He didn't talk about fucking California at all. He just talked about how amazing the city is. And Flea's a trumpet player. So, I mean, he plays a brass instrument, and brass instruments are all over that city, and it's all over Jazz Fest. So he was so complimentary, and he spoke so well of the city and how much he loved it. And he just said it was his favorite place, and how much that goes a long way with that audience. Obviously, you always want, the person on stage saying nice things about your hometown, but his comments went above and beyond what people say when they're on stage. All you have to do is say, hey man, New Orleans, we love it here. And everybody fucking loses their mind. Flea went 3 levels above that to talk about, and you could tell he knew what he was talking about, on how much he liked the city. So that was cool.
The funk, he loves you can see where like the funk, the bass sound, the meters, going back to all those weird old bands from the late 70s, early 80s. That sound, that's he's got a lot of that in his bass sound. So I think he's got a lot of influence coming out of here.
Final thought for me. Ryan Gosling involved in a Fall Guy project. I'm okay with it, but Mark Wahlberg, get off your fucking ass. What are you doing with the $6 Million Man remake? You cannot go to the catalog, and you've got to go Steve Austin first. Okay. Lee Majors, I love both projects. Fall Guy cannot come out first. And I get it. You're talking about Ryan Gosling and Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg has had the rights for what he said he would be, the $6 billion man. He's had the rights forever, and he just can't get that project off the ground for some reason. And then I saw Ryan Gosling today, Fall Guy, which I love. Yeah. But I love it about 3/4 as much as I loved $6 Million Man growing up. That was my dad's favorite show. That's something that we sat around, we watched together. And I trust Mark Wahlberg. We're the same age. He has that love of Flash Gordon, the original one. He put it in the TED stuff. It's all done very respectfully. I know he would have crushed it. I know he will crush it. You got to get that project off the ground. I just can't. I have to boycott fucking Fall Guy and Ryan Gosling. I can't fucking acknowledge it after my mention here. I cannot acknowledge that project until I get some clarity when I'm getting the $6 billion man out of Mark Wahlberg. That's it. Dude. I mean, listen, if those are my problems, I don't have problems in life, but that's something that's happening right now that it's got me creased just a little bit.
As you should. It's like if they'd have made a TJ Hooker movie before they made a Star Trek movie.
Great fucking point. That was an awesome example. You just could not do it. You could not do it. Although I'm sure Adrian Zmed would be down for any TJ Hooker reunion, or a Grease 2 reunion.
Oh my God.
Bachelor party for that matter. Am I going through Adrian Zmed's whole IMDb right now? Maybe.
It feels like, I think that's it. Didn't he do what was the old dance show? Wasn't he on that first? That's where he got his deal. They had dance, but they give you the numbers.
Dance Fever.
Yeah.
Hosted by Danny Terrio.
Oh, different. Danny
Terrio was the guy that taught John Travolta to dance in Saturday Night Fever.
Right.
But I want to say Adrian Zmed may have taken over that show.
I think so.
He may have taken over that show, or was he involved in Solid Gold? I don't think he was in the rotation of Solid Gold anywhere. Was he?
I don't know, man, but that's fucked up that we're talking about Adrian Zmed right now.
What do you got for Solid Gold? I've got Dionne Warwick. I've got Rex Smith in there.
Oh, yeah.
Breath away.
Oof.
All that I can say. And you take my breath away. Rex Smith and then Marilyn McCoo.
Yes.
And that's where was Adrian Zmed involved in it. Where? I'm not looking it up. I'm not Googling it.
No, because then you're gonna get served all this Adrian Zmed news on your feed. You don't want to go. You don't want to get stuck reading through that shit.
All that matters is he had the line of the movie. Tom Hanks, very young, bachelor party. Adrian Zmed had the line before they went in the room. Gentlemen, start your boners. Zmed.
How do we get off on this?
You've been Zmeded.
Well, that's enough for me tonight, too. If we're going to talk about Adrian Zmed, I think it's time to tap out on this podcast. Episode 51. Get it on YouTube.
Really? Adrian Zmed is where you got to go for the door?
That's it. I call it on that one, man. Adrian Zmed. Now I'm going to go watch. I will look him up when I'm done with this podcast. I can't do it now, though. I can't bring myself to it. All right, dude. Thanks, man. Great podcast tonight. It was fun doing it again, finally.
Yeah, it's been a while. Episode 51 in the books. Thanks, everybody, for checking this out. Hit us up on the socials. We'll do a better job of stepping up our socials. We kind of been slacking the last couple of weeks, but
doubt it.
Be back. Good to have one in the can.
Yeah.
Let's go. It's time. Put on play pants.
Find us wherever you listen to podcasts. See us on our YouTube channel and follow our social media pages at PlayPantsPod.